Okay, look, why don't you just tell Fletcher that I'm coming, you mother...
This might be the best jump scare ever, and it's not even from a horror movie. This is from the 2014 film, which after its release instantly became a classic for its amazing story and amazing performances. Now, I'm sure if you've seen the movie, you obviously know the context of the scene, but if you haven't watched it, I'm sure you're guessing why this character was running around so hectically. But before we get into that, we need to dissect and understand what an actual jump scare is. A jump scare is made up of three important steps. The first one is introduce a problem. Now, this can range from things like a character being locked in a house or a horror character chasing someone with a knife. But as we're going to see in this scene, it can be so much more simpler than that. The second step is to build tension. And if you know this scene, you know how well it builds tension. And throughout this analysis, we'll dive into what that tension does to the viewer and how it's so important in crafting this perfect jump scare. The third and final step of building a perfect jump scare is shocking the viewer. Now, shocking the viewer can be anything. It could be someone popping out wearing a mask. It could be an evil face popping on the screen. But really, the only goal of this step is to cause fear. Now, when a lot of people hear the word jump scare, they think of some crazy horror movie with some guy hiding in a closet with a knife or some evil character popping up on the screen. But really, that's only one version of a jump scare, as a jump scare really is just a constant building of tension that ultimately leads to a frightening of the audience. Now, before we get into the breakdown and analysis, a little context for people who haven't seen the movie, and a recap for people who haven't seen it recently. This is Neiman, and right now his main objective is to get his sticks so that he can play his part in his band. That's led by Fletcher, a majorly insane but at the same time passionate music instructor. And as we've seen throughout the movie, and we'll see throughout this scene, we can understand how important this role in playing it is to Neiman. Now, why I say this jump scare is so perfect is because it really is everything a jump scare should be. As from the start of the scene, and frankly the start of the movie, we see this constant relationship between Neiman and Fletcher. That as you're watching, you can't help but wonder when this boiling pot will finally boil over. And what will set Neiman off to eventually flip out on Fletcher. And as we see that, we go on this fast-paced ride with Neiman, and we start to feel the stakes of what playing this part has for him. And we're able to feel the same level of tension he's feeling as the scene plays out. So, as Neiman runs around frantically, we see multiple very important fast-paced shots that are all constantly building tension and suspense throughout the quick pacing and rush feel of the whole scene. Yet, throughout this multiple array of shots, this scene has one reoccurring shot that appears, the clock. And it's really interesting to see as Fletcher, like he tells Neiman, has
Exactly 11 minutes.
to get his sticks or he loses the part. So, as Neiman continuously runs around driving and pacing to beat this timer, this clock appearing again and again allows for the scene to present a reminder to Neiman and the audience that time is of the essence and is continuously ticking down, which allows for a sense of tension to continue building. Another important symbol is the phone call. The phone call acts as another method of tension building, and as soon as Neiman picks it up, we can see his chance of playing it a part slipping away. And since this scene so far has given the ability to connect with Neiman so closely, we also begin to feel anxious when we see his ability to finally prove Fletcher wrong slipping away. Now, during the phone call, Neiman's band member keeps questioning him, and this questioning obviously makes Neiman even more anxious, which is then when the GPS comes in. And through this shot of the GPS, Neiman sees himself not making it in time and not being able to prove Fletcher wrong. And because of this, he flips out.
Okay, look, why don't you just tell Fletcher that I'm coming, you mother...
And it's interesting because when we see this flip out, we can see almost a parallel to how Fletcher yells at Neiman throughout the movie, because he wants Neiman to achieve his greatness and full potential, which we see is why Neiman yells at the band member, because he wants to show that he has this potential and wants to show it to Fletcher. And because of the stressful buildup of the scene, we can see and almost feel Neiman's sense of disappointment and anger that he's not ready at the stage with his sticks. And through that, we almost become a part of the freakout, as through this short, quick-paced, and stressful series of events and shots, we've made a connection with Neiman and built the same desire to make it back in time, which makes us fully invested and focused on the scene, and specifically the one goal of the scene, which is for Neiman to make it back with his sticks and prove Fletcher wrong. And through this kind of tunnel vision-like focus this scene gives us, the viewer is blind to the fact that as Neiman looks up, there's a semi-truck barreling towards him at full force. The truck is the final symbol in the scene, and it really is just the finale of this long, stressful series of events. It's like the moment right when the victim is about to walk in the closet, or the moment right before the scary face pops on the screen. This is the final act in the series of events of a jump scare, where just as the victim begins to want to feel a sense of relief from the constant tension of the scene, they get the opposite and get frightened once again, which is how the perfect jump scare is truly born. And it's interesting because on most people's first watch, they're so blind and invested on the idea of Neiman making it back in time that at a normal speed, they don't even realize the truck is there until the crash actually occurs and the viewer gets frightened, which is how Whiplash truly creates one of the most untraditional and best jump scares in all of cinema.